when I was 19, I was living at home with my parents, about to go to university, and my brother Simon came to stay with us for a couple of weeks. And he introduced me to this operating system called Linux, which was very much in the early days, this ultra nerd fest. And what I was mesmerized by was people all over the world kind of come together to build this software, and they put it out on the internet as open source. And what I found fascinating about this was it was the antithesis of what we knew at that time. Like what we knew back then was companies write software, they sell software, they make money. And I found that notion of a seemingly irrational, unusual approach to things interesting because it generated, I mean, such a profound impact in the world where, the vast majority of companies who are delivering software now are doing it with open source software. The underlying seedling that I found interesting in that whole thing was this notion of communities, of people coming together to build things. And it took me years to realize that what attracted me to community is just one manifestation of essentially taking a more psychological rather than economic approach to solving problems. So what I mean by that is, if you look at most companies, companies are defined by the economic model, right? You have to make money, otherwise your company doesn't exist anymore. And that's completely fine. And that's how we should evaluate the success of companies. But what makes products fun and engaging and exciting in many cases are not connected to the economic model. It is communities and it's engagement and it's all those different elements that are difficult. You can't model in a spreadsheet. So to me, what businesses need is they need a balance of both. How do we show predictable, measurable results? But then how do we bring that kind of like out of the box thinking into it? And that's where you build like really memorable companies and memorable products.
It's interesting because back at that time, I worked for a company called Computer Associates, known as CA, and I was very involved in leading the company in open source communities. I was the one that looked at the communities that were out there, which ones should we get involved in, which ones we really should double down and be extremely involved. I was on the board of Eclipse and OMG, which is not oh my god today, but object management systems. And I was very involved in it, and that's when I bought one of your books at the time about community. But things have really moved on and changed quite a bit since then. Open source is here; it's everywhere. We don't even talk about it that much anymore because we just know that it's there.
Yeah. What and that to me is what's interesting is if you'd have um and people did do this back then, when people looked at this kind of open source methodology of making software, it did not fit the standardized economic model of how you run a business. And that to me is what's so interesting about this is the behavioral economics of how we are psychologically interested and attracted to things is in many cases at odds with kind of historical kind of approaches to business.